You pull up to the drive-through window with your kids in the back seat, your foot touches the brake pedal, and your car lets out a metallic scream so violent that the teenager handing you the bag actually flinches. Every head in the parking lot turns. The guy in the truck behind you smirks, and you sit there gripping the wheel, burning with embarrassment, because your car just told the entire neighborhood that something is wrong with it, and you already know what happens next, because you already lived it. You took it to the shop. The service writer walked out with a clipboard, made a face, and slid a quote across the counter for $600. New pads, new rotors, all the way around, plus hardware, plus shop fees. And here is the detail that should make your blood boil. He never measured anything. Nobody put a gauge on your pads. Nobody pulled a wheel. Your brakes stop the car perfectly, the pedal feels strong, the pads have thick material left on them, and the entire $600 diagnosis was based on one thing: a sound. Today, I am going to show you why that sound almost never means what they told you it means, and I am going to show you the fix that professional brake technicians use on every single pad job, a fix that costs $3 and takes about half an hour in your driveway. Walk into any auto parts store and look next to the register, where the impulse items hang. There is a small foil packet there, about the size of a ketchup packet, labeled high-temperature brake lubricant, sometimes called silicone brake grease, or caliper lube. $3, sometimes less. That little packet is the answer to the question your service writer charged you $600 to avoid answering, because here is the truth the quote conveniently skips. When brake pads still have healthy material on them, squeal is almost never a friction problem. It is a hardware problem. It is dry, rusty, neglected metal contact points turning your brake assembly into a tuning fork, and you do not fix a tuning fork by buying a new orchestra. Look at the estimate on your screen right now and understand what you are actually looking at. That is not a repair plan. That is a business model. Shops run on flat-rate labor, which means the service writer gets paid for selling jobs, not for solving noises. A brake noise diagnosis pays almost nothing. A full pad and rotor replacement on all four corners pays beautifully. So the moment you say the word squeak, the machine converts your noise complaint into a parts order, and the courtesy inspection exists to make that conversion feel scientific. Nobody in that building is technically lying to you. Your brakes do make noise. They are just letting you believe that noise equals worn out, and that belief is worth billions of dollars a year across this industry. If you are done funding that belief, hit subscribe right now and join the garage underground, because every week we take the repairs they price like surgery and show you they are actually a band-aid, and we show our work so you can test it yourself. Now let me give you the real physics, because this channel does not do magic, it does mechanisms. Brake squeal is what engineers call friction-induced vibration. When the pad drags on the rotor, the friction is not perfectly smooth. It grabs and releases thousands of times per second in a cycle called stick slip, and that cycle pumps vibration energy into everything the pad touches. The pad is not floating in space. Its steel backing plate presses against the caliper piston on one side and the caliper fingers on the other, and its metal ears ride in stainless steel clips inside the caliper bracket. When those contact points are clean, damped, and lightly lubricated, that vibration energy gets absorbed and dies quietly. When those contact points are dry, rusty, and packed with crusted brake dust, the backing plate chatters against bare metal at frequencies in the kilohertz range, the whole assembly resonates, and your brake rotor, which is a large flat steel disc, acts exactly like a speaker cone and broadcasts that resonance across the parking lot. That is the scream. So the fix is not new friction material. The fix is damping. A thin film of high-temperature brake lubricant between the backing plate and the points that press on it absorbs those microscopic movements and breaks the feedback loop before it can build into a squeal. And this is why the product matters. This packet is a silicone-based paste engineered specifically for this location. It tolerates the heat that soaks into the back of a pad. It does not attack the rubber boots and seals living inside your caliper. And because it is a paste, it stays exactly where your finger put it, instead of dripping, washing out, or drifting somewhere it should never go. That last part is not a detail, it is the whole game, and we will come back to it in the warning. But before you touch anything, you owe your brakes one honest measurement, because I am not here to teach you to silence warnings. Look through the inspection window of your caliper at the pad material, the dark friction layer bonded to the steel plate. New pads start around 10 to 12 millimeters. If yours are down around 3 millimeters or less, or if you can see a small bent steel tab on the pad edge touching the rotor, then stop, because that tab is the wear indicator, a part deliberately engineered to sing an obnoxious high pitch when your pad is nearly used up. If that is your squeal, the sound is the truth. You genuinely need pads. And the good news is that pads are also a driveway job for a fraction of shop price, which is its own video. A quick tell. Wear tab squeal often chirps constantly while you drive, and changes or briefly stops when you press the brakes, while hardware resonance squeal mostly screams during braking itself. And one more piece of honesty, because the underground tests everything. If your car sat out in the rain overnight, the first few stops in the morning will grind and squeal while the pads scrape a film of surface rust off the rotors, and that is normal and self-clearing. Measured pads, healthy thickness, squeal every time you brake, that is our target, and that is most of the squealing cars on the road. Now let me deconstruct where your $600 was actually going. Pads at full retail markup that you did not need. Rotors at full retail markup that you did not need. Because thickness in spec and a smooth face means a rotor has life left. An hour of book labor per axle. A hardware kit line item. A shop supplies fee, which is a fee for the privilege of being charged fees. And while we are cleaning house, let me burn down the folklore fixes too, because they are worse than the quote, "Do not ever spray anything through your wheel spokes at a squealing brake." The aerosol stop squeal cans, sprayed blind without disassembly, coat everything in the area including the rotor face and the pad friction surface, and the instant you lubricate the surfaces whose entire job is friction, you have converted an embarrassing noise into a longer stopping distance. And the absolute worst offender, the advice that floats around every comment section, spraying penetrating oil at a squeaky brake, is how a driver ends up sailing through an intersection wondering why the pedal does nothing. Legitimate anti-squeal coatings do exist. They are adhesive layers applied to the backing plate during proper disassembly, and they work on the same damping principle I just taught you. But you do not need another can when a $3 packet applied to the actual contact points kills the resonance at its source. Here is the exact protocol, start to finish. Park on flat level ground, put the transmission in park or in gear, and chock the wheels you are not lifting. Crack the lug nuts loose while the tire is still on the ground. Jack the car at the factory lift point, and then set it down on a jack stand, and I mean this without any humor at all. Never put any part of your body near a car held up only by a jack. Pull the wheel. Confirm your pad thickness one more time, now that you can see everything. Then remove the two caliper guide pin bolts on the back of the caliper, usually a 13 or 14 millimeter head, and if the pin spins with the bolt, hold its flats with a small wrench. Lift the caliper off the bracket, and here is the mistake that ruins amateur brake jobs. Never let the caliper dangle by its rubber brake hose, because that hose carries your hydraulic pressure, and it is not a rope. Rest the caliper on the suspension or hang it with a bungee cord. Slide the pads out of the bracket and take a photo with your phone first, so every clip and shim goes back exactly where it lived. Now the real work, which is 30 seconds of it. Take your wire brush and scrub the rust and crusted dust off the bracket ears and the stainless abutment clips until the pads can slide in them freely. And if a clip is mangled or rotten, replacement clips cost a few dollars at the same store. Open your packet and apply a thin film of lubricant to exactly 3 places: the pad ears, where they ride in the clips, the back of the inner pad, where the piston presses, and the back of the outer pad where the caliper fingers press. Thin means a fingertip smear you can barely see, not frosting on a cake, because excess paste is just future migration. While you are in there, pull the slider pins out of the bracket, wipe them clean, check their rubber boots for tears, and relubricate them with the same silicone paste until they glide with 2 fingers, because seized slider pins are themselves a famous cause of noise and uneven pad wear. Reassemble everything. Torque the guide pin bolts to the spec for your exact model, which you should look up rather than guess, because those bolts are smaller than your confidence. Put the wheel on, and torque the lugs in a star pattern. And now the critical warning. And I need you to treat this paragraph like a religion. Not one trace of lubricant, not a fingerprint, not a smudge, ever touches the friction face of the pad or the surface of the rotor. Those 2 surfaces exist to grip, and anything slippery on them subtracts directly from your ability to stop the car. Work with gloves or clean hands. Handle pads by their edges, and if you slip and contaminate a rotor, do not wipe it and hope. Flood it with brake parts cleaner, and wipe with a clean rag until it is bone dry and squeaky. If lubricant soaked into the porous friction material of a pad, that pad is finished, replace it, no exceptions, because friction material does not forgive. And the step every first-timer forgets. Before the car moves a single inch, pump the brake pedal slowly until it goes firm. Because the piston sits retracted after reassembly, and the first press of an unpumped pedal goes almost to the floor. Then test at walking speed in your own driveway before you touch a public road. Brakes are the one system on your car where guessing is not allowed, so if any step here felt beyond your comfort, you can still win. Walk into a shop and ask them by name for a brake hardware cleaning and lubrication service, and watch the price come in at a small fraction of that replacement quote. So, here is your final scoreboard. Their answer to a squeal was $600 of parts your car had not finished using. Your answer is a $3 packet, a wire brush, half an hour on a Saturday, and the specific knowledge of why it works. And the next time you roll up to that drive-through window, the only sound will be your tires on the pavement. Share this video right now with the friend whose car announces itself from a block away, because they are one bad afternoon from signing that same quote. And remember the deal we made in the middle of this video, because it is what separates the underground from the scammers on both sides of the counter. If your ruler said the pads are done, replace them and thank the wear tab for doing its job. This channel is not here to teach you to silence your car. It is here to teach you which sound is a scam and which sound is the truth. Measure yours this weekend, run the fix, and drop your before and after in the comments, because the underground tests everything.